Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar on email marketing. My name is Margie Carr-Jarrett, and today I'm joining you from Providence, Rhode Island, though I typically live in Israel, but I'm traveling, so some of the benefits of being on a virtual team. Before we begin our webinar, I'd like to just share a few technical considerations. First, we're recording this webinar so you can share it later and with your friends on social media, or you can rewatch it. We will also be sending you a copy of the slides, so you'll be able to review those as well. We invite you to join the conversation on social media channels. You can live tweet using the hashtag bookmarketing. So our host today is Becky Robinson, who is based in Lambertville, Michigan, and has led her team in successfully launching over 90 books. Becky is a wife, a mother of 3 girls, and a runner. Throughout the webinar, feel free to post questions, and we will be doing a Q&A at the end. I'd like to just flag that this is a 30-minute webinar. Typically, we'll be doing an hour with some of our other webinars, but for the book marketing webinars, they're 30 minutes. At the end, we'll also be discussing a special offer and some information about our next book marketing webinar. So without further ado, here's your host, Becky Robinson.
To get started today, we thought that we would launch a poll to find out what your comfort level with email marketing is. We realize that you may have different varying levels of ability, and so Margie, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and launching that poll. So today's question is, how comfortable are you with email marketing? So if you could take a quick moment and let us know with a quick click. So I don't want to bother people, I'm resistant to email marketing, or I'm interested but don't know where to begin. Perhaps you'd like to be more successful in the efforts that you're already using, or you're an avid marketer who's eager to learn more, or perhaps you fall into the category of having trouble finding time to stick to your marketing plans. So I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds. We have a few more people who could still respond to the poll, and I can see already that we have a wide range of attitudes about email marketing on this call, which I'm not super surprised about. And I just want to thank you so much for investing time to learn with us today. And I hope that you find this to be a valuable investment of your time. Margie, I think that most people have now answered. So if you could go ahead, Margie, and show us the results, that would be great. So it looks like 38% of you would like to be more successful in your efforts. Only a few, 15%, are resistant, and then some low percentages of people who are either avid marketers or having trouble finding time. So if you fall into that category of I'm interested but don't know where to begin, or you fall into the category of I'd like to be more successful, it's my hope that we can help you today with both of those. And obviously, if you're resistant, I would love to help you overcome that resistance. So again, thank you so much for being with us. Margie, if you can hide those poll results, I'll go ahead and share my screen again so that we can get started on today's content. Is my screen showing? I hope so. It looks like it is. Okay, so we're going to talk today about email marketing, and what I would like to do first is to review for you a little bit about the way that our team envisions book marketing. If you joined us on one of our previous book marketing webinars, one of the things that I feel is exceedingly important is that any book marketing strategy needs a center. And so our team uses this graphic that I'm showing you right now to envision the way the different components of your marketing plan can contribute to your success as it relates to sharing your book with the world. And so our recommendation is that your own website is the most important center to your book marketing efforts. And so we have that at the center of this graphic. And what you'll notice is that at the center of the graphic, where we have your home, which is your own website or book marketing promo page, next to it is a mailbox. And what we found in working with authors over, as Margie mentioned, 90 book launches, that the most powerful tool that most authors have is their own permission-based email marketing list. And so we wanted to begin today and to share content with you that will help fuel your book marketing efforts, and email is one of the most powerful tools that you have. You'll also notice that our team, when we work with authors, we will focus on social media strategy. And the purpose of social media is to find and form relationships so that you can bring people back to your website and hopefully convert them to your email marketing list so that you can build a deeper relationship with them. So I'm not going to talk about the other areas today, but if you're interested in revisiting some of our past webinars, those are archived on our website at weavinginfluence.com, and you can get a more general overview of book marketing. So for today's purposes, we're going to talk about some steps to enhance your email marketing. And the first thing is, if you don't already have a permission-based email marketing list, you need to get started with one. So really quickly, if you could take a quick moment in the question panel and let me know, do you have an email marketing list that's permission-based already? Yes or no? That would have made a good poll. We didn't think of that. And the reason I want to know is because I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about how to get started from scratch to get a permission-based list if you already have one. So if you could quickly find the question panel and give me a yes, I have a permission-based list, no, I don't have a permission-based list in the question panel, I would love to see that from you. So I'm going to work from the perspective that you don't have a list. And if you don't have a list, the first thing obviously is to begin to build a list. And the first thing to do as it relates to that is to organize the contacts that you already have existing. So this could be contacts that potentially are in your Gmail, or this could be contacts that are in your Outlook. Now the important thing to remember is that those people have not explicitly given you permission to market to them. And so you want to organize your contacts so that you can see who the people are, and then you want to seek out their permission to email market to them. So it can be a very cumbersome process. We work with clients all the time to organize their existing contacts, but that's really the first step. And just having a little bit of trouble here. So a question to ask as you organize your existing contacts is, how current are your email contacts? Because if you want to start, for example, with your Gmail list, and maybe you've been using that account for years and years, and people have changed jobs or changed email addresses, you put yourself at risk for spam complaints if you email too often to dead email addresses. So first of all, you want to ask, how current are your email contacts? Also, if you have an existing permission-based list, so maybe you used a website to gather contacts, but it's been a few years since you've emailed to them, you also put yourself at risk at that point if you reignite the use of a permission-based list, that some of those email addresses could also be bad. So if you're using an existing list but you haven't emailed it to a long time, in a long time, it might be helpful to try to update contact information that you have for folks if their situations have changed. So a good question to ask yourself is, when is the last time you sent email marketing? Obviously, if you've never sent email marketing, you're going to be starting from scratch and building from zero up. Or if it's been a very long time since you've sent email marketing, it could be a good idea to communicate in such a way that you find out if people still want to hear from you. And then a final question to consider is, have you previously emailed your LinkedIn contacts? So you may or may not be aware that it's possible to export your LinkedIn contacts from your LinkedIn profile to a spreadsheet. Now, I hope that you'll hear me when I say the fact that you're connected to someone on LinkedIn does not give you permission to email market to them. However, exporting your LinkedIn contacts can be a great way for you to get a sense of some of the people in your network who may want to give you permission to market to them. And so I would encourage you, if you've never exported your LinkedIn contacts, to consider that as a source of potentially people who could be interested in hearing from you as you market a new book. So a very important step is optimizing your website for capturing leads. If you don't already have an existing website, obviously it's going to be difficult to optimize your website to capture leads, but I want to spend a few minutes talking about some ways that you can use your website to create more people who have given you permission to market. So the first thing is to make sure your site has an obvious opt-in, and it occurs to me that it would be great to take a look at that. And if you're not clear, let me know. I'd be happy to switch over to a browser and show you what an opt-in looks like. But one of the first things that I look for if I go to an author's website is that opt-in. Is there a place that I can sign up to hear from the author? And one of the important things is that the opt-in not just be, hey, sign up to join my list. We encourage authors and clients to tell the value that someone is going to get from joining the list. So give people a compelling reason why they should give you their email address. I'm sure many of us are inundated with email. We don't need to join lots and lots of lists. So if people are going to honor you by giving you their email address, you're going to need to show them why it's valuable for them to do so. And that's my second point. So you want to articulate the value people will get from being on your list. So rather than saying sign up for my newsletter, give people an idea of the value that they'll receive from your newsletter, the tips that you'll share, the topics about which you'll write. You can also create what we call a lead magnet and other supporting social media campaigns to attract new signups. One of our clients, a thought leader named Bob TD, has had exceedingly fantastic success in using a free ebook to drive people to his site. And once they come there, thousands of people have been added to his list over the years because they want to access the great free ebooks that he's creating. So you want to think about what content you can share in exchange for an email address. And you also want to think about including that lead magnet on a page all of its own. So the only call to action on the page is to sign up for the free resource. And there you go, there's the last point. So you want to use a landing page with one clear call to action. And that's a really great way to be able to convert people when they come to your website. You have a gift to offer them of value, and they will give you their email address in exchange for that valuable offer. So let's talk a little bit also about utilizing events for capturing leads for your email list. One of the ways that I think most authors or thought leaders or people who are looking to market something else, I think most of us underutilize those in-person events as a way to get more people to sign up for our lists. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So one thing you can do is go old school with a handwritten list or collecting business cards. Now, once again, I want to point out that just because someone hands you a business card, they are not giving you permission to email market to them. So if you are doing a talk or an event, you need to make it explicit. If you give me your business card, that's an indication that you're giving me permission to add you to my newsletter list. Or you can be very straightforward. Hey, I'm looking to build a list of people who are interested in hearing more from me, and the value that I'm going to share is X, Y, Z. So if you wouldn't mind, drop your business card in this bowl, and once you do that, I'll add you so you can hear from me monthly and get great tips. So going old school works. You know, pass around a notepad. If you want to be on my list, put your name on this list, and I will add you to my newsletter list. Old school works. You can also, if you're working as a speaker at an event, you can ask or negotiate with event organizers for access to their list of attendees. If they are willing to give you that list, you want to make sure that you have permission to email to those folks, and in many cases you might only have permission to email to them once. But what you can do when you do send that one-time communication to the list of people who have attended the event at which you've spoken, then you can at that time have a call to action within the email that invites people to hear from you in an ongoing way. You can also use text message opt-ins and offer attendees a chance to receive follow-up materials. This is really slick. I've seen it done so well. A client of ours, John Stoker, at the recent ATD event in Atlanta, Georgia, had a great approach in which he put up on the screen on his slide, you know, text this number, this information, and I'll send you materials. And also through that process, there was the question of, can I add you to my newsletter list? And so he had many, many dozens of people who signed up for his list as a result of hearing him speak. Another thing that you can do if you plan this in advance, if you have an easy to remember URL for a landing page, if you're speaking in front of a group, you can say, you know, I've created this great ebook that you can use as follow-up to today's event, and you can put the URL up on the screen, and you can invite attendees to go to that URL to download your free resource, and in that way you can add them to your permission-based list. So anytime you're about to attend an event, I would encourage you to think in advance about how you can utilize that event as a way to capture leads for your email marketing list. Another great way to capture leads is to have free webinars like the one that we're having today. And one of the ways that you can potentially even get more attendees to your webinar events is to partner with more established thought leaders. So we've supported authors on dozens of webinar events, and in many cases they will invite a slightly better known author to join them. And in those cases, especially if your more established thought leader is willing to market the event with you, then you can see many, many more people added to your email marketing list as a result of those online events. Our client David Burkus has had great success in using webinars to drive signups and additions to his email marketing list. You can also use social social media advertising to extend the reach of your free event. And I would encourage you, if you have advertising budget available, to consider how you can use that social media advertising to help you get more people to your event and again, extend the reach of your email list. You can ask others to share your event to increase reach. So I happened to notice last night that my friend Jane Anderson shared this webinar event, and maybe you heard about it from her. And in doing so, I saw many new signups come through. So this is a graphic that I used. And quite often I mentioned partnering with more established thought leaders. In this case, we had 6 highly esteemed thought leaders who joined us for a webinar. This was several years ago, I think back in 2013. And as each one of those thought leaders shared the webinar event, we saw many, many more people sign up for our event and could then extend and grow our email list. So consider how you could use a webinar event to drive more signups to your email list. Once you have started to gather people to your email list, one of the best ways to continue to grow that list is to create tremendous value through the content that you share. And I had an interesting conversation with a client a couple of weeks ago, and he happened to mention that unlike past newsletters that he had depended upon our team to craft, he had recently crafted his own email newsletter, and he said that he noticed a huge amount of positive feedback from the people who receive the email. I don't know that I have this up on my bullet points, but the more genuine and authentic and valuable your email communication is, the more people will be compelled to open your emails to hear from you. I give a shout out anytime I can to Chris Brogan. Chris Brogan is one of the only people whose emails I always open. If you receive Chris Brogan's emails, go ahead and tell me in the question panel. I open Chris's emails because most of the time on Sunday mornings, his emails come out in the morning before I wake up, and when I open my email, I always know that Chris is going to talk about what he's drinking, and he's going to tell me something really wise and insightful that he's considering as it relates to success in business. So one of the things that you can do if you're wanting to learn how to be more effective with your email marketing efforts is to subscribe to some lists. See what types of emails people are sending. See what resonates with you. See what you perceive to be helpful and valuable. Then consider your target audience and make sure that the emails that you're crafting are going to feel valuable to those folks, that they're going to want to open and read them. So when you get started with email marketing, you want to make sure that you set an established cadence for sending updates. And what I would say is make sure it's something that you can sustain. So our company sends out a monthly newsletter, which we can sustain. You know, we send it out on the first Thursday of every month. I know other thought leaders who have weekly emails. I mentioned Chris Brogan. He sends out emails every single Sunday. What I wouldn't want to see you do is to decide that you're going to send a weekly email and keep it up for about 6 weeks and then disappear. Those people who opt into your list want to be able to count on you, and the best way for them to count on you is if you have an established cadence for sending those updates. There you go. Create a sustainable schedule. You might want to consider a common format to simplify your content planning. So potentially think about your content in sections or segments. That way, when you go to write your email marketing newsletter, you can easily have a mental model for how you're going to craft that content. Or if you're outsourcing the creation of some of the content to others, it will make it much more clear to them what they need to provide. I mentioned this tip already. Review others' newsletters to see which approaches you enjoy. And I would definitely encourage you to do that. I found it to be really helpful. Another thing that you can do is to survey your list once you start to build a list to find out what information they'd like to receive from you. You can ask them what content they find the most value in, and you can work with them to try to make sure that you're providing what they need and want from you. So a few advanced approaches. One of the things that you can do once you get a bit more established with your email marketing, for those of you who answered our poll and said that you're avid marketers or that you want to improve the effectiveness of your efforts, is to think about reviewing your metrics from email marketing on a regular basis to see how effective your email marketing is. You can test different types of subject lines. You can test optimal days for sending email, optimal times for sending email, and you can do that by looking at open rates and click-through rates. And most email marketing platforms have that information available to you. it's very interesting to see what it is that causes people to open emails and what it is that causes them to click through on links. And so you can experiment as you go and review and refine and get better at what you're doing. You can also consider campaigns to nurture your contacts. So what I would encourage you to do is think about, once people have given you permission to market to them, what are the types of content and information that you might be able to send over time in an automated sequence that could help those people to become more closely connected to and interested in you. You can also tag and sort your list to send more relevant content to people. So within our organization, we can go into our email marketing system. We can see what webinars people have attended, what book launches they've taken part in, and we can sort for those specific tags in order to send content that's going to be of extreme value to them. You can avoid sending irrelevant emails when there's not a match. So, wow, that was a lot of content in a short amount of time, and we only have a few minutes left for questions. So I would invite you now to put your questions in the question panel. And Margie, I would love to invite you back, and we can talk together about any questions that you might have. So, Margie, I'm looking for you. Thank you.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so let's see. Our first question is, what's the best way to reach out to my friends and colleagues to ask them to be on my list?
That's a great question, Margie. So what I would think about as a first step would be an email that you might send as a blind copy email. So particularly if you're preparing to launch a book. We talked at the beginning about how you first want to organize your contacts. And so once you've organized your contacts, what you want to think about is, what's the most important message that I have about what I'm doing in my life right now? And that might be, if you're launching a book, it might be, my book is going to launch in 3 months. And so you want to think about, what's the content that I can craft to my friends, family, and colleagues to let them know what I'm up to. And within that email, what you want to do is include a link to opt in to give permission to stay in touch. So you might say something like, hey Margie, I'm so happy to reach out to you today. I wanted to let you know about this exciting adventure that I'm on with the publication of my first book. And then talk about the book and the value that it's going to add. Then talk about the fact that you are trying to gather people who are interested in hearing more onto an email list. Include the link, and then help people realize what they're going to get if they sign up. So you might say, over the next 3 months, I'm going to email once a month to keep you up to date on my journey and to ask for your help in getting my book out into the world. And so you can send that, as I said, as a blind copy email, in which you send the email to yourself from yourself, and you copy in your contacts on that blind copy line. And then at that point, ask people to opt in and give you permission to email market to them. You can also post a link to your list or to your lead magnet on social media channels as a regular occurrence. I've seen people on Facebook many times, hey everyone, I'm just starting up an email newsletter, sign up here to stay in touch with all my news. And you can repeat that message to ensure that more people see it. So that is how I would start.
Thanks, Becky. Okay, our next question is, it seems that building a website is the first step. Do you recommend a particular platform for an author website, maybe WordPress?
Sure. So our team builds author websites regularly, and we do build most of our author websites in WordPress. One of the great things about WordPress is that it's very flexible, and it's also something that if you need to do a DIY project, it's pretty easy to learn. I built my own website at the beginning on my own. I've since upgraded a few times, but definitely I recommend WordPress because it is flexible and provides a lot of great opportunities for managing your content, especially if you intend to have a blog as well.
Great, and I just will flag that we have a little bit more information about author websites in our first webinar, Introduction to Book Marketing, which is on the Weaving Influence website. Okay, and our next question, what are the best tools for email marketing?
It really depends upon where you are on your email marketing journey. I did see a couple of people post, one person posted that they use Aweber. For many of our clients, we use MailChimp because when you first get started, it's free. As your list grows, you may have a fee associated with using MailChimp. I find MailChimp to be pretty user-friendly for a beginner email marketer. Our team recommends Infusionsoft for more advanced email marketing and e-commerce. We use Infusionsoft and have for several years and find it to be very helpful as it relates to more complex email marketing. There are so many email marketing tools that I've never tried and can't recommend, but a simple Google search would probably bring you to many, many. So if you're on the call and you have a recommended email marketing platform that I did not mention, I would invite you to put that in the question panel and we can give a shout out to your favorite company as well.
Great. Okay, our next question is, let me just pull it up here. Okay, I write fiction and nonfiction. What type of content should I be focusing on?
That is a great question. If you have two different genres of books, it may be helpful actually to sort your contacts by the type of writing that they're coming to you and most interested in. And so that would be the first step. You know, if you're an author who creates content in multiple genres, maybe you have almost two different presences for those two types of content. However, if there's crossover, you know, perhaps you're a memoir writer who writes about relationships and then you've done some fiction that's relationship oriented, there may be a way to pull those two things together. Many writers will do email marketing about the writing process and share that journey with their readers, or they might give tips, or not tips, but hints about what might be coming in the stories or series that they're writing. I really think that the content that you share will be unique to each author, and the best thing to do is to experiment and, you know, see what people respond to. I love to ask questions when I send out our emails and see what people say and see what people answer. And the more you can get to know who the people are on your list, the more easily you'll be able to make sure that your content fits the needs that they have and the reason why they've joined your list.
Okay, and I think our final question is sort of related to our last question. How much content from the book should I be using in my email marketing?
You know, that's a great question. And again, one that might be unique to each author. We primarily support business and leadership authors, and I think anytime you can use your email newsletter to showcase the content in your book and remind people of the value contained there, you're going to be moving toward either them purchasing the book for the first time if they haven't already, or reminding them so that they might recommend the book to others. And so one of the things that we encourage authors to do is, if you have articles that are published in mainstream media about your book, making sure that the people on your newsletter see those, especially if there's content that's additive to your book or explains your book in some way or reinforces the ideas of your book in some way. That's fantastic. And I think there are other modes of sharing content in newsletters. Perhaps you're someone who creates great videos. Video that focuses on the topic of your book can also be great. So I would encourage each author to think about what's going to add value for their audience and to craft content that's authentic and real and engaging, and that might be different for each person.
Great. Okay, so that's all of our questions for today. So I'm going to hand the floor back to you, Becky.
Sure. So we wanted to share a special offer at weavinginfluencelab.com. We have a course that will help you walk through DIY book marketing. We have videos and resources and checklists. And the course that we have at weavinginfluencelab.com is called the Book Marketing Action Guide. The regular price is $249, but through July 31st, once you put that course in your shopping cart, it will automatically discount to $149. So we would encourage you, if you're beginning to think about plans for your book marketing and you could use some help with strategy and tactics and staying focused, that you check out Weaving Influence Lab. I also want to invite you to join us for our next book marketing webinar. We are doing these regularly now, and the next one is going to be August 8th, which I think is a Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern for 30 minutes with Christy Kirk, who's our Director of Social Strategy, and she'll be talking with you about social media advertising and how to best leverage that for your book launch. And so we're going to send some follow-up to today's webinar, which would include a recording of today's event, a link to it, and also the slides for your future use. And we would encourage you, when you see that, to sign up for our next webinar. So thank you so much for joining us today.